Hi everybody, welcome once again, and in today's video I will explain you the various components of demand for goods in an economy. Here I have written this total demand, or basically GDP, as the sum of consumption, investment and government expenditure in a closed economy. Consumption depends on the disposable income. Here this represents disposable income, and this positive sign represents that as income increases, consumption expenditure in the economy will increase. Disposable income is the income that remains with the consumers after receiving transfers from the government and paying taxes. Here I have written disposable income as Y minus T, where T refers to taxes, but remember that it is equal to taxes minus transfers. Consumption function here represents positive relation between income and consumption. As income increases, consumption expenditure increases, and this equation is a behavioral equation as defined by economists, because in this case it represents the behavior of the consumers. At the same time, as you can see here, that this equation is an identity, and so is this one. Here I have written a linear consumption function where this C bar represents autonomous consumption, that is consumption expenditure at zero income, and this will be a positive value. Reason being, consumption cannot be zero even though disposable income in the current year is zero. Reason being, survival needs consumption. So either they will borrow or they will be selling their assets to meet their current consumption expenditure. Next is C1, which represents MPC, or marginal propensity to consume. The effect of an additional dollar of disposable income on consumption expenditure. Let's say that MPC is 0.6. That means an additional dollar of disposable income will lead to increase in consumption expenditure by 60 cents. So we can represent it as change in consumption with respect to change in disposable income. Next, we have induced consumption. Unlike autonomous consumption, induced consumption changes with increase in income. So as disposable income increases, induced consumption increases. Overall, with increase in disposable income, consumption expenditure increases, but at the same time, the proportion of income spent on consumption falls. Here we have a linear consumption function where this 0.5, which represents marginal propensity to consume, will remain constant. If we put the value of disposable income here, so we'll get 100 multiplied by 100 here, so we have 150 as total consumption expenditure. Now this part represents C bar, and this part represents induced consumption. So 100 here represents autonomous consumption, and 50 represents induced consumption expenditure. Similarly, if instead of 100 we put here disposable income as 200, so we'll get this part. That means autonomous consumption will remain same and induced consumption will increase. The relation between consumption and disposable income is shown here. Since this is a linear relation, it is shown as a straight line. C1 here represents marginal propensity to consume, or the slope of consumption function, and C bar here represents its intercept with the vertical axis. Since we know that disposable income is income minus taxes, and if we put this value here, we can write it as Models have two types of variables. Some variables are explained within the model and depends on other variables like consumption expenditure. These variables are known as endogenous variables, and then we have exogenous variables which are not explained within the model and they are taken as given, as is the case with investment here, and investment is represented by I bar and is taken as given in the model. The third component of demand in our model is government spending. Government spending represents fiscal policy, the choice of taxes and spending by the government. Just as we did with investment, we'll take G and T as exogenous here. In today's video, I have explained you the components of demand in the closed economy, and in the next video, I will explain you the determination of equilibrium output in the goods market.